Good morning. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Fired Up Crowd today. Everybody all fired up for Border Battle 128 this weekend. The Green Bay Packers are hosting the undefeated first place Minnesota Vikings at Lambeau Field. And the Friday Football Feast is here to talk about it. Paul Charchian to the far right. I'm Paul Allen. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the great defensive players in the history of Vikings football is joining us out of the gate. Can we get a witness and a raucous round of applause for Chad Greenway?
That's what I'm talking about.
We got Jared Wells to the left. Round of applause for the engineer extraordinaire, J-Dub, ladies and gentlemen. Nick Madden and his street team, Abby and Krista, are over there, and they're going to, the street team here in a few seconds is going to come up very big, as it is wont to do, so stand by. But let's just by a roaring sound of applause, if it so applies, or crickets, if that so applies. Undefeated Vikings, 2-1 Packers. Seriously? How fired up are you for this weekend's game? Wow! Holy cow! Paul Charchian, how fired up are you for this weekend's game?
Can't wait. Win here, and you cement first place. You get the tiebreaker over the Packers. You're at that point 2 games up.
Hey.
I mean, you know, this is absolutely pivotal for the future of the outcome of this division long term. It's only week 4. But this is the one where, win or lose here, you're going to be able to go back at the end of the season and say, this was a dividing line game on how this division turned out.
Yeah, ain't no stopping us now, right? Here we go, 3-0. There ain't no stopping us now. I think when you look at the schedule when it comes out, you wondered how this game would be positioned based off these first 3 weeks. You go to New York, you get these 2 just nasty home games.
Yeah.
They're home games. Crowd showed up massive. I love that we overwhelmed that Niners crowd that came in and had all this
they
red.
have a lot of bodies.
And you know, obviously the Texans, nobody likes the Texans, so nobody showed up for that one except for us.
Right.
But when you go to Green Bay, you go to Lambeau, this just means more. It always has. It always will, no matter what the records. But when you have a situation like this, you know, we don't know who's going to play quarterback. When you have a situation like this with records this early, by the quarter pole, you know what you have from a football team.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting there 4-0 and have just beat Niners, Texans, Packers on the road, you're in a really good spot.
3 probable playoff teams,
yes,
and you beat all 3. You have defined who you are at that point unequivocally. I mean, there's no, they lucked into a win here and there, nothing like that. And not only that, the manner in which this team has won the last 2 games. One-sided games. I believe the Vikings have trailed for 3 minutes this year.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Nobody expected that, let's be honest.
No.
I mean, now that schedule came out, I think what you look at is the one word I could look to that defines these first 3 weeks so far is physicality. It's a football team that when you go through training camp, you don't necessarily know what you're going to have.
Yeah.
But we're tackling really well, and we're being really physical up front. And we all know if we go back to the olden days, right, you got to win the line of scrimmage. That doesn't change even in this day and age of we're going to throw the ball everywhere. We're going to have all these athletes outside. If you can't keep somebody upright when you're protecting, and if you can't get to the quarterback, you're going to have a problem. And if you can't stop the running game, you're going to have a problem. So that's where this thing really matters, is can we stay healthy up front? Love what our defense is doing, obviously. How do you not love it? And now can you go on the road in a ruckus environment? We're going to have a lot of purple there. People forget about that. When you go on the road to Lambeau, there's a ton of Viking purple there. So fill the stands, be loud, drown out that chant they do that nobody likes, and let's go get one.
As a player that had many games at Lambeau, how important was it to hear and see the Viking fans inside that stadium?
So important. It's so important down the stretch because they're going to have their moments. That place comes alive when Green Bay makes a play, and you need to be able to have to drown that out. And you also need to be able to have that position when you make a play for your football team, you hear that crowd. It does mean a lot when you're on the road. But there's nothing better in all of sports than going on the road and shutting up the crowd. Yeah. There's just nothing better than that. You can win at home all day long, but put me on the road with our 10,000 Purple fans in that stadium, and they're the only ones left cheering at the end when we're running out. There's nothing sweeter than that.
So it's the Green Bay Packers who happen to be next in the firing line for a KO by KO. The next to face Flores Fleury will be probably Jordan Love. but it's the Green Bay Packers. And when the next in line being the Packers, and given they're facing this unpredictability of the Flores Fury, that means somebody's about to fall deeper into concern with a ponderance of what in the heck just hit us? Holy cow! That was C.J. Stroud if you saw his face. That was Brock Purdy if you saw his face. The Green Bay Packers are next in line, and I can't wait to get into the schematics and the who, what, where, when, and why of what Brian Flores is presenting weekly, because Chad Greenway watches it with a critical eye. Just quick twitch when it comes, Chad, to changing weekly and having a defined show stealer, a defined showstopper who's different every week. Van Ginkel, pick six, Daniel Jones. Then in the Niners game, Blake Cashman, 13 tackles, sack, 3 passes defensed, immortality type line. And then it was the former Texan, Jonathan Grenard, sacking his buddy 3 times last game.
How sweet was that?
It's somebody different every week. What goes into that? Give me your best 90 seconds. What goes into changing and staying unpredictable every single week?
Well, we talked about it all year with this defense, is the versatility these guys can present.
Yep.
And you look at from Metellus to Van Ginkel to these guys that can rush the quarterback, they can drop into covers, they can do multiple things. It makes you really hard to put your thumb on of what you're going to do next. The challenge this week, because every week is a new challenge, every week you don't completely strip the playbook away, but you just add and take things, from the week before, is, Green Bay has the advantage because we don't know who we're going to play against. And sometimes an injury can lead to an advantage to say, okay, we're going to make you prepare for both, what you're seeing from both quarterbacks, what you know in Jordan Love and what you've seen in Malik Willis these last couple of weeks. And you know if it's Malik Willis, you're going to make him try to beat you all day long. And if you know it's Jordan Love, you got to make sure you take care of the deep ball, and you got to make sure you not, take care of your double moves and protect yourself up top, because they got some receivers that can really go. But at the end of the day, both quarterbacks are still inexperienced.
Hey.
Both quarterbacks are young. And what Flores has done these first 3 weeks is confused and really obliterated 2 really good opponents in a row.
Yeah.
And on the road did some really nice stuff in week 1. And the biggest thing they're doing is keeping people out of the end zone. And that's the most important part, is putting points on the board.
So it's the Vikings and Packers in Border Battle 128, Sunday for the Boom at noon. Pregame at 10, Boom at noon from Lambeau Field. And speaking of booms at noon, we have something to share. Double B.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
It's only horrifying for the competition within this market. Ladies and gentlemen, we at the Friday Football Feast are very proud to announce that iHeartRadio and iHeart Minneapolis and the Minnesota Vikings have gotten together on a 7-year extension to carry Minnesota Vikings football on KFAN and Twin Cities News Talk AM 1130. How do you like that? Next season will mark the 25th year of the partnership between KFAN and the Minnesota Vikings. And to commemorate it, we have 7 pairs of tickets that we are going to be giving away via. Oh, you like that, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Now we're talking.
You don't care about the Boom at noon. You just want to go see Kirk.
Free tickets.
Kirk O'Chains. We have 7 pairs of tickets that we're going to be giving away today on KFAN. 4 pair are going to take place here. Okay? Boom at noon.
Wow.
So we have the street team. We have Nick Madden right here. We have Abby and Krista over here. There is a box where you can enter to register to win one of 4 pair of tickets to the Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons, featuring your former quarterback in December. That's to commemorate the partnership. More will be given away today at FM 100.3 KFAN. So to commemorate a 7-year extension between KFAN and Twin Cities News Talk AM 1130, the iHeart family, and the Minnesota Vikings, not only are we giving away tickets, Well, I mean, why don't we just, during this partnership, go out and win a couple of Super Bowls, okay? Let's do it.
Ain't no stopping us now.
Let's have a boom at 6-something from some stadium somewhere in the country against some team from the AFC. So it's a pleasure serving you with these Minnesota Vikings games and FM 100.3 KFAN and Twin Cities News Talk AM 1130. Seven more years via the extension, Birchie.
I can't stress enough how remarkable the relationship is between KFAN, iHeart, and the Minnesota Vikings. There are 31 other broadcast partners that wish they had the relationship that we have and enjoy in this market with the Minnesota Vikings. The fact that you hear all of the players and the coaches that come on this show, that we air VEN programming, that Paul Allen is broadcasting regularly from their headquarters, where we're pulling in people that you would never normally get. People in this market, I think, have become accustomed to this because we've been doing this for 24 years now. But I can't, and I do a lot of out-of-market radio with a lot of other flagships. It's nothing like this in the other markets.
Get him, Charchy.
This is the most healthy relationship between any flagship and its corresponding team. The Vikings have been amazing partners. I think KFAN has obviously been a tremendous partner. And 7-year deals don't get done in this space. It really says a lot. And what Paul hasn't said, but I will, is that Paul Allen is no small part of this, because Paul Allen has become arguably, I think, the best radio voice
no doubt.
of
no
them
doubt.
all.
Let them know.
The Vikings want to keep Paul Allen as their Vox.
Yeah.
You go somewhere else, that doesn't necessarily happen. And that's no small part of this. Paul is a consummate professional. He's a big part of this. Tip of the hat to Paul. Tip of the hat to Chad Abbott, Greg Alexander, and the other people behind the scenes at iHeart that have cemented this relationship over the years. It really is special, and our fan base has been really, really in a spot to enjoy all the fruits of a 24-year relationship built on trust and integrity.
Love you. And a tip of the cap to the best fans in the National Football League, the ones who listen to the games, the ones who attend the games, and the ones to whom the Minnesota Vikings and KFAN matter. The station and the team matter a lot. So thank you very much. 7 more years with the Minnesota Vikings at least, and KFAN and Twin Cities News Talk AM 1130. Thank you very much for listening. Brett Blakemore is guiding the great ship Love Covenant from FM 100.3 KFAN. J-Dub, Nick Madden, Abby and Krista with the street team. They got the registration box for the tickets we'll give away later in the show. And for Paul Charchian and Chad Greenway, I'm Paul Allen. Welcome to the Friday football for a long time. We'll be right back.
Head over to our contest page, enter for your chance to win tickets to see the Vikings take on the Lions October 20th. Thanks to Custom One Exteriors, the official home partner of the Minnesota Vikings. KFAN.com, keyword contest, enter.
9 to noon at Buffalo Wild Wings, Coon Rapids. Good morning. Paul Allen, Paul Charchian. Feasting at FM 100.3 KFAN. Chad Greenway is our first guest. After that, a fantasy football feast. Paul Charchian will help us navigate some fantasy-related topics. Then Gabe Henderson from Vikings.com and the Vikings Entertainment Network is here at 10 o'clock. Alec Lewis with The Athletic, theathletic.com. He'll be here about 10:30. And then the necessary evil, the Sultan of Smug, the host of Packer Preview and co-host of In the Zone Select Saturdays with Double T and Greg Popovich. David Sinekin will finish the show with us in grand fashion. He'll be on air, on site, on demand, and on fire. Super special Cine at about 11:30. And let's begin some game analysis like this. First, down memory lane we go. You touched on winning on the road, Chad, and how special it can be for athletes and teams and coaches and players playing at Lambeau Field. Football Americana. What was it like playing at Lambeau Field?
Yeah, there's a good couple stadiums you look to when you're a player to say, hey, this is a place I want to play. Just historic venues, places that you've always looked at and watched, places that are on TV. For me, one was Candlestick.
Why Candlestick?
Just watched the Niners so many times growing up.
Montana,
was a Steve Young, Joe Montana fan. Loved Ronnie Lott.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So loved
Dwight Clark, though.
Dwight Clark, though. I mean, I walked into that stadium for the first time. That was the one that kind of gave me the shivers. I was like, that was crazy.
You walked out to the field through a dugout, right?
Yes, you did.
And, where the Giants played.
And that was really cool because I had seen that on TV so much as a kid.
Yeah.
And it took you right back to the 90s. And then.
By the way, nobody ever mentions Candle. You never hear athletes talk about, of all the great venues, nobody ever says Candlestick, which was objectively a terrible stadium for fans. A baseball stadium, right?
Yep.
Where, half of the people are a quarter mile away from the the field and everything.
Yeah.
You're the first person I've ever heard shout out Candlestick.
Me too.
I got to play in the dirt once, which was really cool.
I bet.
And then Oakland.
Yeah.
Because
Oakland, Alameda.
Because Oakland is like you show up and you have this expectation of how crazy these fans are going to be, and then they're exactly how you expect them to be.
I bet.
Went on the road to Oakland, and that locker room was like a bad high school locker room. Double stacked, guys in one locker. But then you have like these historic venues like Soldier Field and obviously Lambeau and Arrowhead, where you kind of look to and be like, those are the ones I cannot wait to check it off. And to play in this division and play at Lambeau, and Soldier Field 11 times was incredible. And I think when you walk out of Lambeau Field, you obviously there's a back and forth. It's a rivalry. It's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But it's a good rivalry. It's a positive rivalry. It's a fun rivalry. It's a neighborhood rivalry, right? It's neighbors going against each other. And I always love playing there, and it's really fun to win there.
I bet.
Of any place I played, I think Soldier Field was the best place to win because that was the hardest for us.
Wow.
And those fans are just, ugh. But Lambeau was one of those places just iconic.
Yeah.
And and just one of those places when you grow up, like I can't wait to have an opportunity to play there, and then you get a chance to do it 11 times. It's pretty sweet.
Well, at Soldier Field, the crowd is right on you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, you got like 50 rows. They're right on you, kind of hanging over when you get up to the second level. You would know this better than anybody here. Lambeau Field, since the 2003 expansion, and then they expanded on the expansion, it more so, because they have a large footprint where the stadium was built, it's more of a bowl that kind of goes back and up, where U.S. Bank Stadium kind of goes back a little, then it goes up because the Minneapolis footprint ain't that big. So when you're on the field and like it's a crazy third down for say the Vikings offense, third and whatever, tight game, you're on the sideline taking it in. How loud is it? Because we call the game behind the Packers bench right at the top of the stadium about the 30-yard line, and the windows are open, and it always is kind of like a din. It's kind of like the metaphorical or cliched, it's kind of like, that was terrible, but you know what I mean. It's not like raucous and on top of you. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think when I look back to my college career, the Big House, Michigan, 100,000 people now, 110 or something crazy, but it goes on for days. It's almost like Norm Parker, my defensive coordinator, said, you can stand at midfield, stand on your tippy toes, and almost look out the stadium. It feels that way. But then you go to Ohio State or Penn State, and these things are just on top of you, towering. It's loud.
Then you play in Lincoln and football immortality at Memorial. But outside of the stadium, you can stand on a beer can and see for 500 miles in that state.
Yes, you can. But I think when you Lambeau, it actually reminds me now of Camp Randall at Wisconsin, because they put all the glass in, they kind of closed everything up, so it's louder now than it was early in my career when they had the expansion. But it's not it honestly isn't that stadium where you're like, this is so loud I can't hear myself think. That's not the type of stadium it is, in my opinion. Arrowhead was always a little bit louder, I thought. Obviously, indoors in New Orleans was incredibly loud.
Well, Seattle is legitimately nasty.
Seattle is nasty.
U.S. Bank Stadium, nasty.
But that's vertical. It's on top of you, so that sound just pours right down and doesn't escape. And Seattle's nasty.
Seattle, for an open-air stadium, seems like the loudest in the NFL.
Wild. I mean,
I think it is.
Like when when we're at home defensively, you can only hear one.
Yeah.
It's you. You can't hear anybody else's voice on a third down, so you better know what you're going to do, or you better have signals, because you can't communicate 3 feet apart.
Right.
Now imagine having to manage a snap, right? Have to deal with all the motion, movement, and all the subtleties of an offense with that noise pouring down on you is just wild. There's some great stadiums out there. A lot of fun.
All right, now turnovers into every single football game are the A topic for every single team. In this one, it's a little magnified because Green Bay's +7 in the take-give, number 1 in the NFL. They have 9 interceptions, number 1 in the NFL.
Yep.
And the Minnesota Vikings under Kevin O'Connell, when they win or push the take-give battle, they're 20-0. So
amazing stat, by the way.
When the Vikings don't lose the turnover bit and even just tie it, 20 wins, 0 losses. Now, another kind of a 1A as we move along, that'd be the 1. The 1A kind of is Green Bay and penalties right now. This is a problem with Green Bay. They have 26 penalties, 5th most into the week. They have 8 offensive holding penalties, most of any team in the NFL. Now, what we just saw with the gas mask guy, Laramie Tunsil, 6 penalties called against him and 5 accepted. I mean, that's a first for Bursic and Ian Lieber. But now here comes Rasheed Walker. All right, Rasheed Walker has 4 holding penalties against him this year through 3. That's most in the NFL. They have 3 defensive holding penalties called against them, 2nd most in the NFL. This is a handsy bunch. This is a bunch on the offensive line, specifically with the left tackle in the center, Josh Myers, 4th-year Ohio State. They hold you. And maybe they think they're pushing the envelope and they can get away with it. Not in 2024 in the National Football League. I thought the first week or two, the overly officious ways of a lot of these referees and their staffs would stop. Week 3, it didn't. And it continued last night.
Last night was absurd.
Yeah, I don't know what private, secret, covert, cabal mandates taking place behind the scenes. I have never seen this many flags thrown in all my years of calling football games.
Hate it.
And finally, behind that, Charch, so let's say Jordan Love is the quarterback.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Kevin O'Connell joins 9 to noon every Tuesday at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center at 11 o'clock. And you can podcast at KFAN.com. When discussing the quarterback situation, he didn't play his hand on Tuesday, but he said something that I haven't forgotten, where he wouldn't be surprised if there were moments they used both quarterbacks, where Jordan Love plays some. Yep. And in watching back the Packers against Tennessee and most of the game against Indianapolis, Malik Willis has really, really matured as a calm football player with this running thing. I mean, and LaFleur is the best offensive mind with whom he's ever worked in his life.
By a margin.
And it has calmed Malik Willis. I mean, I think his passing's good, getting better. He lofts it up there a little too much for my liking, but he's very young. But the running piece with him, when he goes read option with Josh Jacobs, man, hide the women and children sometimes because they sell it really, really well. And finally, the Packers are running for 1 million yards a game. And they did it against Philadelphia. They had 2 and change against Indianapolis. And part of it is Jaden Reed. I mean, what a nice football player Jaden Reed is. He averages nearly 20 yards a catch. And he's averaging nearly 18 yards a run. And it's not just 1 or 2 runs. So with the Packers offense against Flores defense, boys, what can we expect?
Yeah, I think a couple things for me is if you look at that turnover stat and look at the where they're at, the plus minus, also look at who they played. Look at the offensive teams they played to get in that position. It's going to be a huge factor on the road, no question about that, if you win that battle. The penalties you talk about, as active as our front is and as multiple as our looks are going to be with them, of not knowing where guys are coming from or getting guys on edges, the holding stuff is going to matter. And the way they're throwing the flags right now in the NFL, we're going to get a couple of these plays called back because we're so active up front. We're so good with our hands. We're so good at getting on edges as guys have to grab. I think what you look at if you do get Willis is you have this challenge now where you have to really account for that run game, which adds, it takes a period a day at practice to look at what they're doing, how they're doing it, what sets are going to be in, and you have to have a plan for it. So it takes a little bit of your focus away to somebody who may not play one snap in this football game.
Right.
And that's an advantage for them, no question. But I do like the point, though, of all of a sudden we have an injured quarterback who's obviously our number one guy, and he's coming back. We get a 3rd and 1, a 3rd and 2. We get a 2nd down on the goal line at 2nd and 4. You're going to see him come in and run some run plays because now they see they have something unique.
Yeah.
And now we're going to make you game plan for it. And when it's handled accordingly with a really good football, with a coaching staff, it can be a huge advantage.
He's playing fast.
Yeah, you hit on exactly what I was going to say. Let's assume Love's a starter and that he's not at full mobility on that knee. It's 3rd and 3. I'd rather see Love in the game than Malik Willis because Malik Willis can do two things well. He can throw short, accurate passes, and you only need 3 yards, and Malik Willis can run.
Yeah.
And he's going to open up a run-pass threat that you may not have on Jordan Love on that bulky knee. So
the part about that, though, from a player and game standpoint, is you take your starting quarterback out of rhythm.
Yeah.
You do. I know this because I've been there. Like when you're an every down linebacker and you're playing, you're in the rhythm of the game, you have the speed of the game, you have the set, the motion, the feel, you know where guys are. They break the huddle, you start to get a rhythm for things. And all of a sudden, when I became a 2-down backer, in some cases a 1-down backer, in some cases a no-down backer, because they're throwing every time, when we got Anthony and Eric, all of a sudden you feel out of rhythm, out of sorts. You're not seeing every snap and every play. Your brain's not catching up to the speed of the game, what they're trying to do. That happens 10x as a quarterback.
Paul hit on an absolutely key element to this. Matt LaFleur is awesome at his job, and the fact that this Packer team walked away 2-0 on 2 Malik Willis starts in which basically he never throws longer than 12 yards downfield.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to put together an amazing game plan for that, and he did it. And he did it twice. I mean, the fact that he had to show his hand on how they were going to use Malik Willis against the Colts, and then next week he was able to formulate a game plan that had to be really similar because Malik Willis is not suddenly, a downfield passer.
It shows you how important coaching is in this league.
It's so important.
When you have a guy like Sam Darnold, right, a guy like Malik Willis, you get him in situations, it turns the kid around.
I have a FICA, Fairness and Charch Act, all right, because Paul, and just for whatever the reason, you'll jump the gun on things whether you're right or wrong.
That does sound like me, honestly.
Well, more quickly than I will. So like I want to see things for a while. It was like March or whatever. I mean, you and I had talked about Sam Darnold before, and you were super negative on it when the Vikings made a move, and lo and behold, Sam Darnold's playing quite well. Not the first time you've been wrong. Won't be the first time that, at least at this stage, that you will be right about something. Here's the FICA, Fairness and Charch Act. I don't know how many games I've given Will Levis now. I mean, it's a young quarterback who I'm like, hey, let you know. I mean, it's a run-first bit with Derrick Henry. I don't think he has the right coaches. Let's get more than D-Hop out there, stuff like that. So they get Tyler Boyd, and they're doing things differently. And when I watch back the Packers-Titans game, all right, Green Bay was no bargain in that game. I mean, they were absolutely there for the taking to get beaten basically 3/4 of the game. The Packers, when they get inside the 20, inside the red zone, they have 3 touchdowns out of 10 attempts. I mean, I've never seen so many field goals from the 11, the 13, and the 16 in one game or 2 games consecutively as I saw in those 2 games. But you know what else I saw? And Chad Greenway, I think, can appreciate this because he was the kind of guy who would take advantage of this. They spread out 5 wide. I don't exactly know the type of defense that Levis knew was coming. Okay, you have to know what's coming if you're running the ship, or at least be 80% with the discernment. And so he tried to throw what's known as a hitch to DeAndre Hopkins. Well, Jair Alexander was so schemed up on Will Levis and how he's not improving. Alexander did not even retreat like Hopkins was going to run deep.
Really?
He stood there, ran in front of the ball, and got into the end zone. And I'm watching it. I watched it 3 times. And I'm like, my man, okay, you don't have a swivel. Maybe you get a swivel for Christmas and have it next year. But you eyeballed something the guy, 23, knew was coming. He disrespected you so much when Hopkins burst off the line. Alexander didn't even run deep. He's like,
Let
no.
him go.
Yeah, bro, go ahead. If it's a gotcha, it's a gotcha. I made a mistake. And he jumped it and got into the end zone. So FICA, fairness, and Charchiak, I'm on board with you with Will Levis until proven otherwise. But that's the team that just played the Packers. And I'm telling you that they this season they've been inside the 20 10 times. They only have 3 touchdowns. That's crazy.
Yeah, you got to finish those drives. I mean, 3 points is not going to get you there enough. Vikings, it feels like the Vikings have finished way more of their drives, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, I think so. When you get 7s instead of 3s, that's how you win in the NFL.
Right.
No question. You look at that same Titans team that went to Chicago, right, and basically got beat by the defense.
Will Levis threw the game away, literally.
Yeah.
So, there's a bunch of options to look at that and say which way he screwed the game up. But, that play by Jair Alexander is what you're looking at for this weekend for JJ is we have to be unpredictable because these guys are watching tape. These guys are professionals, and he's very, very good.
Yeah.
And if he sat there because he knew what was coming. He sat there because he knew what was coming because of film study or what the Titans have done or what they were unwilling to do, which would be to allow him to make plays further down the field. Also, down and distance factored in, the splits by the receivers, all that stuff figured in there. But when you can sit and your eyes never move, these guys, especially a guy like that, is going to pick you apart every time. And now we have to understand and see that what we're dealing with, and then hopefully we get into a position where this back and forth is going on with JJ and Jair. It's like who's going to win this weekend?
What do you think of that?
But you love it.
Those matchups are awesome, right?
These are 2 of the best guys in the league at their position.
Yeah.
And I would love to see them go toe to toe and just see what happens. Now, if you're Sam, you got to be really smart about when you challenge and when you don't challenge and when you have and seeing what you see. But the reality is you have to go at him because we have to throw to JJ to be successful, especially in certain down and distances. But where else can we win? Who else can win their one-on-ones? Who's healthy? And these other guys have proven to step up and be able to separate and win in one-on-one situations.
Jair's won the last 2, at least in the box score. The last 2 games, JJ has had, I think last year, and it was a Nick Mullins start. It was like 5 catches for 60 yards. And the game before that, it was 1 catch for 5 yards for JJ. And that was a Kirk game 2 years ago. That's, Jair's on a good streak in this one, and he is as cocksure as any player.
Yep.
I want to go challenge that and find out if they're really going to have Jair on single man on JJ, because I'll take my chances with JJ to beat that.
Yeah, and also if you know that, you always know where one guy's going to be lined up, and you always know what kind of covers they're in. So that's going to help you a lot in identifying and understanding what they're trying to give you, and then also where else can we go attack somebody else. Because they're not all Jair Alexander. So we can go find a weakness and go find a matchup that we really like. And also, by the way, can he tackle in space against our running back who's going to run down your throat and have all this animosity and revenge in his blood,
all right,
which I love to see.
Tell me about that. So is revenge game a real thing or not?
Yeah, I mean, you think there's not going to be a game on the schedule this year that Jones is going to be more fired up to play. Let's be honest. He's going to go back. He's going to get a little smattering of boos and cheers because they love him but they hate him. He's wearing the purple now. And he's playing fast right now.
He's playing great right
very
now.
well. He's playing like he played in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And we now have him. He's our toy. He's fun. Like, I think we get him the ball as often as we can, and we let him go have his revenge game.
I want to see him Lambeau leap.
Oh, 100%.
Aaron Jones,
There'll be some
Lambeau
Vikings
leap,
fans.
baby.
There'll be some Vikings fans row 1. We know that. Go find those guys.
I hope so. The Packer fans that I know were crestfallen when Aaron Jones ended up not, when the Packers decided they'd rather give basically the same money to another running back in the form of Josh Jacobs. And Packer fans like, what are you talking about? Aaron Jones.
We like our guy.
We love that guy. Yeah, we love that guy. He was a Packer, and he was a good player. And maybe they just got tired of him being questionable going into every game. The money, I don't think, was really the issue because they paid Josh Jacobs more money.
Yeah.
But as a person and somebody that was a kind of a face of the franchise, fans loved Aaron Jones. They were disappointed that he left. I don't think there's animosity there, but I don't know. It just feels like, to me, Chad, you only play 17 games. Aren't you at 100% as a player all 17 games, and a revenge game doesn't move you to 105%? Or does it not work that way?
Well, you're always at 100. You have to be. I think, but mentally, as you're preparing for something, Like, this game does mentally mean more. Physically, you have to give 100 every time.
Right.
Right? But the reality is it just means more mentally to him to go into this game. And can you give a little more? We'll find out in this one.
Yeah.
Right? Because your 100% may not be 100 until you go get a chance to have a revenge game where all of a sudden somebody's disrespected you and you're going to go show them how good you are. And that's what this is for him.
My man, what's going on with Grey Duck Vodka and Grey Duck Spirits?
Bloody Mary Fest next weekend. We are the vodka of choice. So if you're into Bloody Marys, you want to go down there and get yourself one made with Grey Duck Vodka. Also, we'll be serving our seltzer and our beer down there as well. So get down there. Obviously, we're at the Gophers games. I think they're on the road this weekend.
Yeah, Michigan.
In Michigan. Let's hope they go.
Could be a tricky game.
Nah,
Wink Martindale, though.
Let's go beat the Wolves. Come on.
Hey, love you very much.
Michigan.
Thank you, brother.
Oh, yeah. How about those Hawkeyes last weekend?
And with that, we've got to go.
Yeah, we didn't discuss
All right.
that. That's weird.
9 to noon caught a college football stray, so we got to go. Love you very much. Chad Greenway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Chad Greenway, courtesy of Grey Duck Vodka and Grey Duck Spirits. All right, quick reset. The big news out of the gate, 9 to noon, is that iHeartRadio, specifically KFAN, and Twin Cities News Talk, AM 1130, have gotten together with the Minnesota Vikings to extend our radio partnership for 7 additional years. So when the boom is at noon next year, 2025, that'll be the 25th year. The Vikings and either AM 1130 KFAN or FM 100.3 KFAN have been in collaboration, and it's a beautiful relationship. It was our honor to share that with you this morning, and to commemorate some great fans, we are giving away 7 pairs of tickets to celebrate and commemorate and honor the 7-year extension via the partnership with the Purple. It's the Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, we have 4 pairs to be given away here at Buffalo Wild Wings Coon Rapids. If you're late to the party, Krista and Abby with the street team, they have the registration box over there. By all means, register. And near the end of the show, we will announce the winners. 4 pairs to the Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons. Coming up at 10:05, for those of you listening on the radio, Brett Blakemore guiding the Great Ship Love Covenant. He has 1 pair, 2 tickets to be given away for the Vikings and the Falcons, and he's going to do that at 10:05. We'll have another pair during the program, noon to 3, and a final pair during Bumper to Bumper, 3 to 6:30. Make sure you register. We will announce the winners of the tickets near the end of the radio show. A fantasy football feast unfurls around the corner. It is the Friday Football Feast from Buffalo Wild Wings Coon Rapids. It's PA and Charch on KFAN.
Get ready, Minnesota. The legendary Stevie Wonder is coming to Target Center. Join him for an unforgettable night of soul, funk, and timeless hits. Sunday, October 27th. Tickets are on sale now. Full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
It is post time for the Fantasy Football Feast with Paul Charchi and GuillotineLeagues.com. Gabe Henderson will join us about 10-15 minutes from now. Indianapolis Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson has played just a little more than a handful of games. His fantasy prowess off the few he played last year, well, it was ballyhooed. What do you do with Anthony Richardson now and all these interceptions?
Paul, the problem is we're not sure he's a functional passer at this point. And, we know his running can be special, but get a load of some of the metrics so far this year. He has the lowest completion percentage in the league, Paul, at 49%.
Oh, geez.
He's averaging 12 completions per game. That's it. Also, dead last among starting quarterbacks in the league. Mm-hmm. And what I keep hearing from people is, from fantasy owners especially, is, okay, wait. I'm here for the running on Anthony Richardson. I don't care that he can't pass.
Yeah.
Okay, you should care. First, he's only running 6 times a game.
Ew.
That's not, that is not enough. Like, Justin Fields is running 12 times a game. That's what you want to see out of somebody who's rushing upon whom you can rely.
Yeah.
Then secondarily, there's this part with Anthony Richardson, Paul. You know who's sitting behind him on the depth chart?
Jim Sorgi.
your reigning comeback player of the year, Joe Flacco.
Hello, Jacko.
And so you're Shane Steichen. You're already on the hot seat. Your team's 1-2. Your quarterback is a barely functional passer. And at some point, you gotta win games. You can't, if you're Shane Steichen, you can't carry this thing out all season at the rate it's going. You have to get better quarterback play. And then you look at Carolina, and you look at what you look at what Dave Canales just did by putting in a quote over the hill quarterback. How about just a competent passer into your game?
Yeah.
And Andy Dalton sparks the Carolina Panthers to probably the biggest upset victory of the year.
Deontay Johnson looked the best he's looked wearing the teal.
Absolutely did. And so did your running game. I mean, everything clicked because you just had a functional passer who looked requisite of the spot. And that's what Joe Flacco might be able to provide. So there's a scenario out here where if Anthony Richardson doesn't start looking much better as a passer, that Shane Steichen's got no choice, and he's got to make a change at quarterback at least for a short term.
With the possible but maybe probable return of Jordan Addison to the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
What does that do to Jalen Nailor? Because Nailor in sneaky fashion was I'm a little stuck at receiver now.
Yeah.
Scoring a touchdown every single game. So what do you do there?
And I started Jalen Nailor in some of my guillotine leagues because just because there's 18 teams and you gotta find guys. My presumption is, Paul, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, because Naylor's been so good, if they're bringing Addison back, it's because he's near 100% health. You don't have to rush Jordan Addison back.
Agreed.
Because Nailor has been absolutely requisite of a starting spot. So my presumption is if Addison is back on the field, he's 100%.
Yeah.
Now I'm interested. Yeah. Jair Alexander is going to be on Justin Jefferson for a lot of this game.
You and Chad were chatting about that, but I got clipped, so I didn't exactly hear what you were saying. So are you under the belief, if you're riding your gut feeling, do you think they're actually going to track 18 with 23?
Yeah.
And it's just like
a lot. Not all game.
That's your guy, Jair.
Yep.
Go get him.
Yep.
Really?
Welcome
in. The water's warm.
Welcome in. The water's warm.
Seriously.
Like you say, bring it on?
Yeah. Welcome in. The water's warm. Bunch of sharks in this tank, boy.
There are. Now, that doesn't mean Jair's going to get single-man coverage every snap. I still think that they will add some extra help. But Jair wants that matchup.
Yeah.
He's going to look at his past success over the past couple of times I've matched up and go, look, I've been able to do this. Mm-hmm. Let me have that responsibility.
Yeah.
They will roll extra coverage to help Jair sometimes.
Okay.
So I'm really interested in Eric Stokes against either Jordan Addison or Jalen Nailor. That's going to be a plus matchup. Stokes has had some problems in the past.
Yeah.
Awful last year.
Yeah.
Right now, Eric Stokes giving up a 73% completion rate on passes on him, and he gave up a touchdown to the undead corpse of DeAndre Hopkins last week. I am interested.
Hopkins does not look the same.
No.
It's unbelievable.
Paul, he's cooked.
Yeah.
I mean, and, in fairness, he came off a long preseason injury. I just think, and potential, probably going to the Hall of Fame, so I'm not taking anything away from his career.
I don't know about
I just think he's on the wrong. It's going to be close.
Yeah.
It's going to be close on DeAndre Hopkins. I'm interested in Addison here. I'm interested in Nailor, who I still think's going to get on the field a fair amount.
Yeah.
What will be interesting to see is if you're going 3 receiver set, Addison is usually run on the outside. Nailor is usually run on the outside. Do they shift some of those into slot usage just to get those 3 guys on the field because they've all been productive in their requisite starting spot?
Maybe you bring Jefferson into the slot
too. Yeah, that's a great angle. You're right.
Because Jair
doesn't want to play there.
It's not. He doesn't play there, and I'm not going to say Jair is not a good run-stopping corner. Let's just say there are better run-stopping corners. Mm-hmm. And when you're inside the Antoine Winfield zone, I mean, you got to mix it up. It might get a little nasty in there with C.J. Ham coming at you and stuff like that. Okay,
love that angle, Paul.
Eric Stokes. I find myself feeling bad for my man, and here's why. 4th year from Georgia. Jefferson killed him when LSU played Georgia 5 and 6 years ago. So they've kind of had a thing. What's up, G? They've kind of had a thing for many years. But here's why I feel bad for him. He's only played 15 games the last 3 seasons. He doesn't have an interception in 3 years. And it's all due to hamstring and just injuries and stuff like that. So the once ballyhooed has not been able to avoid not just nagging injuries, but like debilitating season-ending type injuries. But he's up right now. We'll see what happens. The Bears' backfield, DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, Roschon Johnson, second year from Texas. Well, this thing's become muddled, hasn't it?
It really has, Paul. And here's the main takeaway. The Bears signed DeAndre Swift to, I believe, a 3-year, $20 million deal. We're 3 weeks in, and this experiment might be over. DeAndre Swift dead last in several metrics, including first down run rate, yards after contact, and I believe rushing EPA, rushing success rate. He's been awful. He's running at, I believe, 2.8 yards per carry, DeAndre Swift. But here's the big thing that was really telling last week, Paul. Final drive of the game for the Bears. It's a drive they have to potentially win the game. They benched DeAndre Swift for that drive, and they put in Roschon Johnson.
Wow.
Now, Johnson has not looked awesome either in the limited duty he's got.
He's very fast.
He is a north-south bulldozer. If you get him going, he will punish people. I believe the Bears are going to make a change at running back this week. Fantasy owners, I would get out of the...
Well, Herbert's not bad.
Herbert isn't bad.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be in the rotation here, too. And he is more flexible. He gives you more outside speed. He gives you different looks. He can catch better than Johnson can. Herbert will be a factor. There's a non-zero chance DeAndre Swift, in the span of 1 week, goes from the starter to inactive this week because Velus Jones plays special teams. Yeah. And if they feel like they're going to go Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson and Velus Jones on special teams, this is all speculation on my part just based on how bad Swift has looked.
But that's what you got to do.
That scenario is out there. Go pick up Roschon Johnson now. Yeah. He is a bulldozer. He would be a goal line guy.
You know what?
And let's see if we can get 1 week ahead of a possible turning point in the Bears backfield.
For every Darnold whiff you have in March, you hit on 15 Khalil Herberts in September and October, okay?
Thank you. We'll take that.
You know what I mean? And finally, give me your best 45 seconds on this. Then radio listeners, FM 100.3 KFAN, Vikings and Falcons tickets to be given away on the radio here shortly, courtesy of Double B. This may sound like football sacrilege, like it's not in the gridiron gospel, but Patrick Mahomes, is he still an absolute auto start every single week?
He's not, Paul.
Come on!
Patrick Mahomes, we're to a point now where the sample size is so big on Patrick Mahomes that he is no longer an automatic start in your fantasy team. And that doesn't mean you never start him, but now you need to start looking at every matchup. You need to start figuring out if the other quarterback you've got on roster has got an easier matchup. Paul, let me give you some metrics. We're going to go back to last year, week 8. So that's the whole second half of last season, plus 3 games of this year. Patrick Mahomes has been a top 10 fantasy quarterback over those 11 games.
Jeez.
1 time.
Wow.
That's it. On average, over those 11 games, which is a big sample size in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes' average finish is quarterback 16.
Wow.
So, no.
Like Baker Mayfield up in this thing.
Is. And here's what's killing Patrick Mahomes. And this was a problem last year and it's a problem this year. He's 27th in deep ball attempts and he's 15th in deep ball completions. When we think of Patrick Mahomes, we think of the deep downfield lasers.
Yeah.
They're just not there. They drafted Xavier Worthy to help fill in and try to help make that happen. And it still could, but through 3 games,
and Rashee Rice is good.
Happening. Rashee Rice is great, but you know where he's great and what they do with him?
What?
It's 6-yard slants.
Wow.
And then go let Rashee Rice go break a tackle or two and something good happens. We love Rashee Rice. But the downfield plays that accumulate the enormous amount of fantasy points fast just aren't happening.
Okay, those of you here at Buffalo Wild Wings Coon Rapids, we are an hour and change from giving away 4 pairs of tickets to the Vikings and Atlanta Falcons. We have 7 to give away today on FM 100.3 KFAN to commemorate the announcement we made about 9:10, the Vikings and KFAN and iHeartRadio, iHeartMedia, and Twin Cities News Talk, AM 1130. We've gotten together on a 7-year extension to carry Minnesota Vikings football. It's ballyhooed, it's super cool, and it's an elite relationship. To commemorate it, we have seven pairs of tickets, 14 total, to Vikings and Atlanta Falcons, December game against Kirk O'Chains. We're going to give 4 away here near the end of the radio show, but we have a pair to give away right now, courtesy of Brett Blakemore back at the 651 Carpets Plus Studios. Take it away, B.
Yeah, Falcons, Vikings in December. You can call 1-800-320-5326 now. We're celebrating that new 7-year partnership between the Vikings and KFAN. 1-800-320-5326. Good luck.